Yeah, let's go ahead and do the intro.
Oh.
I'm gonna do my little bit,
Oh,
and
got
then
it.
just I'm joined by, and then I'm gonna point at you. You introduce yourself. I point at you. You introduce yourself, and then take off.
Okay.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Health Yes here at Cameron County Public Health, where we talk about all things public health and more. Today we're kicking off season 2 of Health Yes. It is January 2024. It is January 2024. I'll be your host today, Javier, and joining us on this episode,
Andrea Gomez, Community Engagement Director.
Enrique de Onda.
Perfect. And today we are here to talk about the humble beginnings and growing pains of the very podcast you're listening to right now. Thank you guys for joining us. Remember back when this place was a rat's nest?
Yes.
Literally and figuratively.
Oh yeah, broom closet all the way.
Like you can only step like 2 feet into here before running into either a desk or a chair that's not being used or just containers.
And I wonder who saw the potential of the closet.
I'll tell you how that happened. I was in Esmer's office and she was like, what if we did a podcast? And I was like, well, yeah, but where are we going to have it? We only have 2 rooms available. And one of them is that room that we use all the storage for. All the old printers and computers and stuff go back there. And she says, well, what about that room next to your office? I'm like, the broom closet? You mean the one with all the stuff in it? So we got all excited. We're like, sure, let's go look at it. And we're like, of course, it was wall-to-wall junk. There was chairs. There was old promo stuff, signs. There was racks. I can't even remember. You couldn't get in further than 2 feet. Mm-hmm. But if anybody saw the potential in it, was Esmer, and she was like, yeah, this room. And I was like, there's no air conditioning in here.
At all, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Before it was full of stuff. It was also full of a bunch of just straight up junk.
Yes,
And,
there was a lot that we threw away.
Yes.
But a lot got repurposed also. I wish people could see the studio as it is now and a before. Like when it was the broom closet and then when it was in the process of getting ready.
I love it when people come in and they look around and they're like, wow, and then of course they're immediately like, we should have a podcast. They're like, oh yeah, you should. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would love to see.
Get behind the mic.
Or like, I mean, this place didn't even have a ceiling.
It did not. No.
It had like just like a thing of fluorescent light tubes and like no floor.
And you know what I also remember before it being a podcast studio, it was just like a little video studio when it got cleaned, but right before construction
we put tables
started.
And stuff. In
yes, and we would do videos in here when we were starting.
Sketchy.
Yes,
we would bring people in here for ID photos.
Oh yeah.
Before, no, the walls were not painted. The floor had just been like, I guess scraped off before putting in the rug and everything. It would still look like an empty warehouse, boards all over the place and cables and other stuff.
Yeah, I guess to provide context, we are kind of in a festive mood because we are celebrating the first anniversary of said podcast.
That's right.
Of this studio, of everything we created over the year. And it premiered, January 2023?
January 2023 was the first episode of the podcast. So, what better way to kick off, I guess, the inaugural season 2 of Health Yes than to do it again in January. And a look back, not necessarily on times here at CCPH, but just as the podcast as its own monster, putting it together.
And all the planning it took.
Oh, for real.
The whole how we're going to get episodes out. Back when it was barely an idea.
You're right.
We had no clue where it was going to be hosted at. And then where we are today is in a year or even less than a year. Maybe it was like 8 months of preparation to where we are now is just amazing.
Yeah, because even before... Because we didn't even have the idea of, I mean, we've tried doing like videos and stuff in the past, but to also, the podcast was also our launch of like really pushing videos as well, because we now also had another space to use.
Yes, definitely a space where it could be called a studio, and just also a place to get creative.
I've been thinking a lot lately, like we're talking about a year, and the first episode we had with Judge Trevino and everything, and how that seems like so long ago. And I was like reflecting on my time here, and it's like oh my God, I've been here for like 20, 15 years. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think we operate on cat years around here because everything's like a lifetime. It's like 7 years have gone by since then. And it's like, well, back in my day, we used to do podcasts in an old box with a microphone. And to see what, this place has become and all the equipment we have. And it's kind of intimidating now because it's like we got all this stuff and people take us real seriously. Like, whoa, could you have this done in 2 days?
Absolutely not. But don't you enjoy it?
I mean, it keeps things interesting.
There's
no routines.
It has its perks where there's not necessarily a routine, but then also it can be quite daunting because your mind is in several places. But I think that the podcast, what we're doing right now, having this conversation, is just a nice
after
break.
The fact of having it all set up and stuff, it's a huge blessing. You have that place to do it now. But I mean, I remember spending I think it's been like 2 weeks in here of setting up tiles and stuff. Nailing
the
things.
whole layout though. That also was the growing pains of having a podcast that you can put so much into it, but you slowly have to build into it. You don't get it right the first time. It's a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely not.
And I guess this year, really having our guests, like our incredible guests,
for sure, because
people need to know what's going on.
Yeah, we made some good connections too with the podcast as well, providing people that platform for them to also speak on behalf of their programs, services that are available to the communities that people don't know about. It's good to have a platform like this so that people can share that with the public.
Definitely.
And not just that, but just the going-ons in the community in general. So it's good to have that. But I mean, leading up to being able to do this is definitely, like you said, growing pains. Coming up with the layout, coming up with the concept of it.
The title. Remember?
Yeah.
We couldn't land on one.
Yeah, I think we were all trying to do puns as much as possible, and I think Esmer had picked out the best one, which was for the health of it.
For the health of it.
For the health of it.
And I was like, man, that's amazing. And then I drove by a park, and it was on a sign outside. I'm like, whoop, somebody already got it.
Yeah, it's taken.
But I mean, I think the best thing about the podcast has been that for once we get to step away from our roles as, public health, and we really show who we are as individuals. And the doctors and everyone that comes in and speaks with us, you get another side of who they are as a person. We all got so bogged down with COVID, obviously, and the messaging, and it's really hard to stay motivated when it's obviously so daunting, and then there's a new restriction or there's a new something, and now we're finally starting to get comfortable again. We're starting to be on our own, and we're starting to really go out into the world now, and it's nice to be able hey, you know what, we were here for you then, we're here for you now. So like always, let's have a conversation. Let's see where we're at. Let's take an assessment of where we are as far as our public health, as far as things going on. So I think that's a great tool for that.
It is, especially with events that we have going on, for one, and also outbreaks that might happen. Knock on wood, but we're also first responders, as public health employees. Part of Cameron County. So that also, this tool is amazing to reach maybe an audience that doesn't follow us on our social media or isn't just, aware of anything happening down here. They might not be from around here. This is the perfect tool to have that conversation to, kind of like the inner workings of how we get things done. And
it's also been just a good way to connect with the people too.
Yes.
I feel like leading into not just the podcast, but the program, community engagement, was very much a, hey, let's find a way to put a face to the behind the scenes, the going ons of what happens, what leads into our outreach events, and what does public health do, who is public health basically. The podcast has definitely been able to provide a voice for that. People are now know who we are. The people that we're in contact with, people like Dr. Tyler Maldonado, and all these people, the guests that we've had in here, are the resources that we reach out to whenever something like a malaria outbreak happens, COVID. These are our outlets, and this is how we're telling people, these are the people, these are the faces that are behind the messages that you're receiving, not just
Right.
in our social medias or our graphic designs or our outreach events and everything. Is very much thanks to there's that connection is very much thanks to platforms like this.
100%. And I am so excited to what we have planned for 2024, guests that we have, kind of like lined up to come, but also just the conversations that we need to have in a way that just lets people know, what's going on, what they need to know, to be careful, to take precautions also. But I just love the idea. I am so excited for it. And I really, really wish people would take advantage more of the podcast in any way on any platforms.
I was thinking a little bit about what you said earlier, and you were saying about community engagement. How many events was it that we went to this year?
170 in 2023.
See, so that's the good thing, is that having the podcast, we can lead up to it. It's a big enough event and let people know. And then obviously the aftermath of like, well, this is what happened. But then I was thinking about, like, we were talking earlier about COVID and stuff. But then, like, remember every time that, like, we turn on the news, it's like, oh, yeah, killer hornets from Japan. Fantastic. And then, like, what was that? Was it fungal meningitis or something? People getting plastic surgery in Mexico. And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe we should tell our audience about that. And
Well,
maybe,
yeah, that was unfortunate though.
Yeah, I think.
But then we got also the malaria.
Yeah. And isn't this like the third time already that it's Cameron County?
Yes.
Let's
yes.
see who on this
We're the
global,
lucky county, I guess.
on this global map. I mean, obviously it's a map, but United States. Oh, Texas. Oh, Texas. Sure. Oh, no. Oh, let's go South Texas. Oh, okay, Cameron County. Again,
let's go to
Cameron
the very
County.
tip.
Yes.
I choose the tip of Texas. Oh,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely known for being the first in a lot of things.
We get handed, yes,
Yeah.
heavy-handed, for sure.
So I mean, it only makes sense that we had the first podcast, right?
That's right.
Remember when we had the trials?
Right. Yeah.
When we had the auditions?
We were testing out basically
Like very improv?
having like a talent recruit of seeing who's good on mic, who isn't. Pretty much with everyone here in community engagement and just whoever we kind of thought had a good voice to help share some of these messages.
For sure.
We just had, we only, what was it? Back when we first started, we only had like 3 mics.
Yes.
We had like dingy little stands, and just like we were sitting like front and front with each other, like next to each other, like super uncomfortable, like kind of awkward, but
Right.
like, trying to come up with like little improv.
It was just so new. I guess the concept was so new. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had to, because people are shy around cameras.
Right.
Much less so with mics, but it's still like, hey, this is gonna get out there at some point.
Right. Your voice being recorded.
Yeah. Yeah. So, definitely trying to figure out, who's good on mic, who's good on camera, because the idea of camera was, it's still floating around.
It still is. And I think it's something that should be implemented, but all in due time.
Right. In due time. That is its own
Classic scenario, the radio voice.
Yes.
Not necessarily the
Do
video face.
Do you guys remember what your improv was that time?
I remember.
What was your pitch?
I remember we had one with our previous video editor, and we were talking about like the holidays and like getting pets indoors or vaccinated.
That's right.
And he had a whole like pitch.
That's right.
And another employee of ours, like, very shy with the mic, like trying
But she
to,
did
like,
great.
She did great. She had a good voice for it, but very shy.
Yeah, very shy.
And that was one of the things that we were.
She was
trying to
turning
iron out
red.
at
It was
first.
like, girl, the camera's not on. Like,
I know. Yeah. It's like, come on, like we're just testing things out. But
Yeah.
it was definitely a trip to try to like figure out what works and what doesn't work.
It was.
I can't say I remember the English version, but I do remember getting sucked into the Spanish version, and my
That's right.
Spanish is about as good as Taco Bell. So I remember you were quizzing me about the turkeys and how I was going to prepare the turkeys, and I'm like, el pavo.
The
It's
recipe
not
for
called
yes.
guajolote. It's called pavo, and
But you
sweating
know what?
bullets. But
Fair mention is that I would like to have conversations in Spanish just to keep some bilingual. That's one of my goals for 2024, actually, for the podcast, is to at least have some type of storytelling or informative
I think
episode
we can
in
pretty
Spanish.
much. I mean, sometimes when you're talking to somebody, you obviously get the impression that they feel better speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
So I think every once in a while, just going in there with like, "Cómo estás usted?" or something.
We
like
had one episode when we were out in Dr. Maldonado where we actually redid the entire episode in Spanish.
Right.
We're in the valley,
Right.
so Tex-Mex is
But he did
perfectly
great in
acceptable.
both languages.
Oh yeah,
He did
'cause that's his
amazing.
native tongue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he was saying that he was actually a lot more nervous doing it in English. I mean, you can even see kind of his hand shaking a little bit. But once we did it in Spanish, Lida and the people who were here just kind of took off,
Right.
basically redoing the entire episode.
Yeah.
But in Spanish, I mean, he already had it in his head. He knows this
Right.
stuff. He talks about it all the time.
Well, let me tell you, when another language is your native language, it's even if you're well versed in that second language, your mind automatically just reverts to your native tongue.
Right.
And so everything you think in that language, and you have to like constantly just translate. Of course, practice makes perfect, right? But there's that like anxiety that you get. I am the people. I am speaking about myself.
For sure, yeah.
That's the thing, is trying to make people feel comfortable. I mean, like whenever I wasn't part of the podcast, I was always trying to like have a conversation beforehand with them, get them talking, get people to relax. Because of course everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do great," and then you put them in, and it's like you're taking your picture for your driver's license or something like.
Yeah,
So
it's just the fact of knowing that it's recording, that it's gonna stay somewhere forever, that you want to get it right. And I think that's where the anxiety comes from, that you want to nail it,
people
maybe
wanna be
like
professional
comfort.
about it.
Exactly. Yeah, you want it to come out exactly how you have it in your head, and so that sometimes makes you a little tongue tied.
I mean, people are they're so worried about looking and sounding professional, or like to the point where they want to impress people, or just to sound like intelligent and whatnot. But I mean, really, what we try to do here on Health is we try to humanize people in the messages. So we really do try to like make things more a conversation and not so much just an interview of like, hey, who are you, what do you do, and the topic at hand, and just kind of forcing the topic. We want to have that conversation. We want people to be comfortable and enough so that they come back. We want to be able to bring people back. Of course.
I think that's our important spin on the podcast, is having just a relaxed conversation with whoever sits at the table. And then there's others that have all these incredible knowledge up here in the mind, and it's getting it out, kind of pulling it out of them.
There is a huge difference between like let's say bringing in someone like the judge or commissioner in here versus like someone who works quote unquote the field of their job and what they do. Judge Trevino versus Gus and Dr. Tyler, like one just kind of goes on about the politics and the history and stuff about everything and knowing these people, versus like we get a lot of boots in the ground topics with people talking about their actual personal experiences,
right?
And, like, laughing amongst them, and like a lot more casual. And it's those are the type of conversations we want to push as well. We want to push both of them, but we want to have that mix, a nice little balance of seriousness and lightheartedness. All in one here at Health Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of also the whole point with public health. Everything is public health. Yes. So, it's a lot of topics. It's a lot of ground to cover. But hey, we're in season 2. And
here's a question. Should we shoot to have some holiday podcasts?
I think so. It'd be a great idea.
I mean, there might not be so much like, I don't want to downsize the other stuff that happens early in the year, but some more fun topics towards the end, maybe something not so serious. Tips
talk
for the
about
holidays,
Santa Claus.
Push some of our holiday events too. Just to kind of
end the
year, cap off the year.
That's actually a very good idea. Yeah,
and if we do decide to do video, maybe we can theme it up in here.
Yes.
Are you telling Andrea she can decorate?
No.
I don't know that there's enough money in
Don't
the
get
budget
me
for all
started.
holidays.
Don't get me started because I already.
Do you remember the time she decked the hallway to look like a stone wall? We had a castle.
I've heard
in
of
our
deck the
hallway.
halls, but I mean, you decked the halls.
She literally.
And it wasn't even Christmas.
So I gave her the nickname Paper Cut.
People don't need to know that. Anyway.
TMI.
Origami queen herself.
How else are we supposed to let people know who we are? You know, at the end of the day, there's personality back here. And we are the public in public health. So
There you go. We gotta let our personality shine. Whether it be paper crafts, building a float, or just having, I don't know, wearing many hats and doing things.
We
Definitely.
say that, but I'm still aching to get that recipe video shot or played or something. One day I want to cook in front of camera, maybe. But
final thoughts, podcast. It's now freezing as hell in here.
It's not anymore. No.
that's
Or sweltering.
That's the thing people don't know. People don't know that leading up to recording the podcast, we have to like, you know, we have a mini split in here now, a little AC unit. But before we had like a portable AC unit with a duct just kind of sticking up into the ceiling, and like we literally had to icebox this room before bringing in guests, so that way to trap the cold air in here. And then try not to make the podcast last more than 20 minutes because then the heat starts coming back in here and it just gets sweltering. And it was always like bringing guests, you know, they come in here and just hearing the AC unit in the corner just like just revving up, blowing out air and just like pausing that and just dead silence. Record a podcast.
Like go time as soon as you hit off.
Yeah. As soon as we hit off on the podcast, turn it on, turn the AC back on. We're dying in here.
But hey, it's a DIY
It is
podcast, but it looks legit.
This has been the biggest and I want to say the funnest DIY project we've done in here.
Yes.
Working for Cameron County.
It has.
probably one of the most permanent too, because I mean,
Definitely.
I remember
also,
how nice the room looked during Thanksgiving, and it was all decorated, and then we had fireplaces on the TVs, and it was cozy and nice. And I was like, okay, we're done. 10 minutes, tear down, everything's gone.
The Llorona video in here, and we turned it into a club.
Oh, the Ice Club.
It was a club. That's
That
right.
looked so nice.
these
Let's not
tables
talk
here,
about La Llorona.
I mean, we already started talking about La Llorona. We're going to talk about La Llorona. That was a
Go
whole
watch
production.
La Llorona video.
Yeah,
And then just
youtube.com/@ccph
comment. I heard it on the first anniversary podcast episode on Health Yes. And then we'll talk about the Ice Club.
Humble beginnings here at CCPH. La Llorona, the rat's nest of the podcast.
Hey, the
room.
boss tells you to be La Llorona. You are La Llorona. What do you do? What do you do?
Don't drown your kids, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, but that's a whole thing. Like we had so many things going on in here.
Oh yeah.
Like not just the Llorona, but setting up green screen stuff in here.
Yes.
Having to move these tables. I mean, we're probably still gonna do that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole space is very much you want to do something, name it, do it in here. You know,
Very much.
we try not to, but you know, it's a studio space for now, so we do what we can with it. Final thoughts, Enrique?
I don't know. It's you get so caught up in projects sometimes. We were saying at the beginning, it's like this was a broom closet, and it's like look at it now, and it's like, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, the the float. Float. Yeah, we never built a float ever, and then here we are. Oh look, I hope nobody dies. I hope this doesn't fall over on anyone, and now every time the idea comes back up, hey, should we build a float? No.
Oh, it's absolutely no. Yeah.
That's a big no. But I don't know. It's interesting, you know. Esmer always talks about growing pains, and I think we've had some. But at the same time, I think everything we've accomplished with what we've had, what we've done, I think it's pretty amazing, and I'm genuinely proud of everything we've been able to accomplish. And I think it really speaks volumes to, you know, the people we have here, but also and the creativity and willingness to pull your sleeves up and get to it when you got to. So I think that's the best part, you know, is again showing who we are behind the scenes, behind the graphics, behind the cameras, behind the voice, behind the tables at the events. It's who we are, you know.
Definitely tagging along onto that feeling. I actually feel incredibly grateful to have this space, to have an approved space.
Oh yeah.
To actually vent like this. I mean, what job gives you that? And it's thanks to Ms. Esmer.
Health Yes has been a slew of ups and downs, you know, growing pains, learning lessons learned, using our skills to the best of their abilities, and putting them to good use in a positive way, and now providing a platform where we can now express who we are as a public health entity, and the people behind the things you see on social media. So thank you guys so much for joining us on Health Yes Season 2, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right.
Edit out my because I thought you were free speaking like to us instead of like towards the episode. You know what I mean? Just edit out the. I was like,
No, keep that one.
Keep that one. Keeping that.
Keep that
one. Keep giving us more bad examples. It's still rolling. I haven't stopped it yet.
So do you want to do the intro or?